Welcome back to The Price of Business. I am your host, Kipper Price, talking to you about you and your business. Chris Kidd's in the house. He does a regular segment here on The Price of Business. Really cool topics, all surrounded around the financial issue, but also bringing in sports law and the laws surrounding athletes, and as well as entertainment law. And, man, I mean, we've had such a blast with our interviews and always delighted. And my understanding is our next guest is a great blast from your early segments when you were first started doing your segments on the program. And I'm delighted to have him back on. But before you introduce him, tell the listener about exactly what you do. And I want to tell the listener about the website, which is at KiddKidd.com. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I'm a financial coach, and basically my whole mission in life is to help people solve financial problems. And whether it's getting out of debt and learning to manage their finances better, or even on the wealth building side, which everybody gets excited about because everybody wants to make more money, or somebody who's come into a lot of money, like a professional athlete who just signed a big contract, bigger than something they've ever seen before, learning how to manage that so that it is protected and managed correctly, and they understand what's going on so that they don't lose it. And my guest today is actually a expert in that area, David Pessin with Pessin Katz law firm in Baltimore, Maryland. He's a wealth protection attorney and has a amazing list of clients, the who's who in the sports industry. And good to have you on again, David.
Wow, it's great to be back with you guys. It's been a while.
David, kind of tell us a little bit about your practice, your specific practice, and that of the larger firm in which you work with.
Okay, well, the firm's a fairly large firm, and we've got a bunch of different divisions. The Wealth Preservation Department, which I chair, is sort of the oldest, and that's how the firm started. But we've branched out. We've got litigation. Really great bunch of litigators, and a corporate transactional practice, education and labor department. So we're a pretty diverse practice, but our wealth preservation group, sort of the genesis of the firm, it was kind of funny. My background was actually at one point in time, I wanted to be a sports agent, and I worked for a really good sports agent, one of the best. And I didn't really like what I saw in the sports industry as far as being an agent, but I really liked the notion of helping people structure things, including their business and estate planning, tax planning, things like that. And it was clear a long time ago, this is 20 years ago, that there was really sort of a void in the market for people providing those kind of services for athletes. So while people sometimes think I'm a sports attorney, I'm really not. I'm a wealth preservation attorney that has lots and lots of sports clients and a unique practice in that sense.
Very good. Chris?
That's a great point. It doesn't have to be with an athlete. It can be anybody that's got some wealth to protect. What are
Well,
go ahead.
Kind of interesting. What happens with the athletes is that sort of the same kinds of issues that almost everybody faces at some point, but they are so amplified and they're so under a spotlight that there's almost a distortion in how you have to handle these issues.
Is it? Do you find what's some of the biggest issues that you deal with as far as people coming after people being taken advantage of from like the so-called leeches, and or people just not managing their stuff correctly or understanding what's going on? What are some of the things that you see that are some of the biggest mistakes?
One of the things that really has to happen, and it's really transitional, early in the career, the things that we're really focused on are estate planning, making sure that, in terms of your gifting patterns, that these are, tax efficient and that they are not going to end up bankrupting the client, making sure that they've got proper insurance, both for not only life insurance, but that their liability is covered, that they have asset protection, a plan in place, that they consider prenuptial agreements, and it's an education process. And the guys that get this part early on continue with this. So when they get married, they need to restructure things. When they have kids, they restructure things. They certainly want to make sure that if anything happens to them, it'll be clear that people will be provided for in an efficient way. Somebody sent me an article yesterday about the Robin Williams trial, and it's amazing. Even with excellent planning, issues arise. Now, when they get older, when the athletes get older, it's really fascinating to see what happens when they retire, because some of them are set for life if they do things properly. Some of them, I can't tell you how many athletes I've seen and represented that earned well over $100 million and only have a few million left. And that while a few $1 million is a lot of money, it's really disappointing to see how poorly managed things were. On the other hand, I've got some athletes that have really done a great job of preserving their wealth, and then their opportunities post-retirement are much greater then because they have the resources to focus and allocate.
Yeah. From a legal perspective, what are the problems that are unique to athletes that are different from others in general?
It's interesting. It's the magnitude of some of these problems. Certainly one of the biggest is that they either feel an obligation to support a lot of people who have supported them over their lifetimes, or they're targeted by people who think that they ought to be doing that, whether they have a moral or legal obligation to do so or not. So making those parameters, working with the financial advisors to make sure that there is a structured plan in place. This is one of the more difficult times of the year because we do a lot of gift tax returns, federal gift tax returns. You're supposed to report large gifts that you make. And even just trying to corral these guys, even when their financial advisors are tight in how they manage the money, how much is given away is almost staggering sometimes. And they can be taken advantage of. A lot of guys, when they retire, they meet some people who are very good businessmen or purport to be very good businessmen, and we have to be very careful in the way they structure their off-court, off-field enterprises. One of the biggest problems in that area is they frequently do not silo their business enterprises. And that, I mean, they don't separate them out, a separate entity for each activity. So, for example, a guy may have a basketball camp, and he may also have endorsements. Well, we want separate LLCs for each of those enterprises so that the liability from a basketball camp, if a kid gets hurt, isn't a stream right into the asset base. So we spend a lot of time counseling people. No, you don't just set up one LLC, it's Bob Jones, football player LLC, and do everything out of that. So that's kind of a more important corporate side structure.
Well, David, we're kind of running short on time now, but one of the things I wanted to ask you about that we've discussed before is the fact that on the investment side, a lot of times these guys will go out and just try to be professional investors when they may not know exactly what they're doing. And it's great to invest your money, but I always say it's best to learn before you start actually doing it. But there's other ways that they can do this just by leveraging, their name and credibility versus leveraging their capital, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. The horror stories are abundant. I've got a client now. The financial advisor got him after he started doing things, and he's a great guy and he's a bright guy, but he has friends, and his friends started a business. He said, "Sure, I'll invest in the business." And he gives the guy $80,000. Well, there's no operating agreement for we don't even know what percentage of the business he owns. We really discourage our clients from investing in businesses that are risky. In fact, we'd much rather have them with a solid investment portfolio than a sports bar. And one of our mantras is that it is way better for you to lend your name and likeness in a controlled way, because that's an asset that can also be dissipated, but rather than put your money in. So we'd rather somebody else put the money up, and we'll have Glorious Joe's Sports Bar, but Glorious Joe is not going to have a nickel invested in that if we can help it.
Yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice. I guess one of the biggest factors that people often don't think about, but especially if you're dealing with football players, you're talking about a really short shelf life in general, aren't you, in terms of income accumulation?
Yeah, I tell you, the football players, in my experience, tend to be the most difficult of the athlete clients. A really great basketball player, if he blows it financially, he's likely to have another contract. If he's reasonably good, he'll at least have NBA veteran minimum of $1 million and change a year. A baseball player, typically big signing bonus and then minor league money for a few years, so he learns how to manage his money. The hockey guys are all really smart because they're all from other countries. They're bilingual. They're experienced. But the football guys, they come in, if they start spending in a pattern that is not prudent, and they get to the end of that first contract, there's frequently not another contract, and there's no recovery.
Yeah, very interesting, very important topic. Chris?
Well, that's definitely really important. One of the things to think about when, on the wealth side is, how you get paid, when you get paid, and how long that's going to last. Are there areas that you see that guys are better with money as far as figuring that out, or?
You'll appreciate this because of what you guys do for your living. The really good guys early in the game set a program. Their financial guys sit with them a few times a year and say, look, this is how you're deviating from the program. We run the numbers. This is what you're going to have if you continue on the path you are in. This is what you're going to look like in 5 years, 10 years. And the really good guys get it. They understand that, yes, there's a certain amount of discretionary money. You can go to the casino a little bit and you can blow a little bit of money. The good financial guys actually factor that in. You can factor in the gifting, but you can't it's not unlimited. And the really good guys learn early on a sense of discipline. Fortunately, most athletes, there's a strong component of discipline, or they wouldn't have gotten where they got from an athletic perspective. So if they can turn that button on with respect to being off the court or off the field, they usually have very good results. And while you hear lots of horror stories about broke athletes, it's unfortunate that you don't hear more of the stories about the guys who did it all right and now have a very, very good lifestyle without worrying about their financial security or that of their family.
Great stuff. By the way, Dave, what's the website for people to get more information about your firm?
Easy one. It's pklaw.com.
David Pessin, thanks so much for your time. Of course, Chris Kidd, he's a regular on The Price of Business. You can learn more about him at chriskidd.com. Final thoughts, Chris, before I let you go.
Always great to be on, and it's great talking with David anytime that he's available.
Awesome. Great stuff. All right, when we're back tomorrow, we're going to have much more for you. But the show continues 24/7 with great audio and video and more at priceofbusiness.com. And best content here shows up over there at usatoreview.com. Have a great day. Spend it right here on this station.